Hey guys, what's up? This is T-Bones Tech. In this video, I'm going to be answering one of my most requested questions. You guys have been asking me this question constantly. What is the best DSLR body and lens out there for the money? Without spending too much money, what can you get? After spending a couple hours in researching cameras and camera bodies, I ended up picking the Canon Rebel SL1 because right now you can get the body for only $500 and it is an amazing body. Now some of you might say the Canon Rebel T5 is the cheapest. Well, it's really not because you have to get it with the lens. You can just pick up the body of the Canon Rebel SL1 for $500, whereas you can pick up the Canon Rebel T5 for $550 with the lens, but that I would personally never recommend using the 18-55mm lens. The 18-55mm lens really isn't that bad, and it's pretty good if you're starting out, but there's just so many drawbacks to getting the 18-55mm lens. Don't waste your money on that lens because you're going to grow out of it very, very fast. And if you spend, I think $250 on the STM version, just don't do it. Don't spend your money. Save more money and then buy a good camera and a good lens. So for those of you who don't believe that the Canon SL1 is the best Rebel camera out there for the money, I'm going to read a list comparing the Canon SL1 to the Canon T5i. The Canon T5i is the most expensive Rebel camera that Canon is producing to this date. So now that you have your Canon SL1 and you only spent $500, which means you still have a lot of money left to buy a lens, you're automatically going to be searching for what the best lens is. And most likely you're going to find out that all the Canon L glass is the best glass, hands down. But that's not necessarily true. If you are shooting on an APS-C size sensor, all the Canon Rebel cameras have APS-C size sensors, you are going to have a 1.6 times crop factor. All the Canon L lenses are meant for full frame cameras, or a 35mm sensor. The Canon APS-C size sensor is much smaller than a Canon 35mm full frame sensor. So that means that you're going to have a 1.6 times crop factor, which means that you're going to multiply the maximum and minimum focal range by 1.6. So whatever lens you're looking at, you're going to have to multiply the minimum and maximum focal range by 1.6. Now if you're a wildlife photographer and you're using zoom lenses, then this actually might come in handy, even though you are going to be experiencing more noise since your sensor is smaller and cannot absorb as much light. For an example, if you have a Canon 24-70 f2.8, you're paying for a huge aperture and a constant aperture, but you're not actually utilizing that aperture. You're only going to be using a super small percentage. So you're spending all this money to get this wide open constant aperture and you're actually not using that much. So definitely stay away from L glass when you're picking out your first lens. Most of you are probably now shocked that I said don't get an L lens if you have a Canon Rebel camera. Well, now I'm going to tell you guys what the best lenses for your crop sensor camera is. So when you're on Canon's website, there's two different sections of lenses. There's actually three because they have their mobile line for their Canon EOS M, but we're not going to talk about those right now. We're going to be talking about the EF and the EFS lenses. Most of the EF lenses were designed for the 35mm film cameras. All those old cameras, they just kept the same lenses. They did add some improvements and they do have some that weren't designed for film, but most of them were actually designed for film, and that's where the 35mm sensor comes in. Now the cheapest full frame Canon camera is going to cost you around $1,600, which is a lot of money to be spending on just the body. That's our whole budget right there, just for the body of the camera. Canon does produce some very, very, very nice EF lenses that are still going to produce very, very good images if you are using a Rebel camera. Tons of professional photographers do it, but you're just not getting the most out of your money. So what type of lenses should you get? You should get the EFS lenses. EFS lenses are designed for the APS-C size sensor in all the Rebel cameras, and that is their main purpose. That is their only purpose, is to work with APS-C size sensors, which is a sensor that you're going to have if you have any Rebel camera, or a 40D, a 50D, a 60D, or a 70D, or even a 7D. All those cameras have APS-C size sensors, so smaller than full frame sensors. So you're going to want smaller EFS lenses to work with your smaller sensors. Alright, so now that we know that we're going to be picking out a EFS lens, we're going to pick out which lens. While most of you aren't going to be using a telephoto zoom lens to really zoom far away on objects, most of you are going to want a standard zoom lens, kind of like the 18-55mm, how it covers a somewhat wide variety of focal lengths. You're going to be able to get wide and then pretty close up, and it's going to be able to cover a wide variety of focal lengths. Alright, so I have Canon's website pulled up right here. I'm going to be showing you guys my screen in a second, and I'm going to be reading off some of their EFS lenses that I considered picking out, and then I'm going to tell you which ones I actually decided to pick out for this setup. Alright, so you can see here there's a EFS 15 to 85mm f3.5 to 5.6. Now unfortunately that lens has a variable aperture. When you have a variable aperture like the 18 to 55mm lens, when you start at 18mm you have a 3.5 aperture, which still isn't that good. And when you zoom out, you have a 5.6 aperture. So your images are getting at least twice as dark, which can be a big pain if you're shooting in fully manual mode. You have to keep remembering that when you zoom out, your images are going to be darker. So after looking through all these EFS lenses, I figured out that the best lens out there is the 17 to 55mm f2.8. And it's just f2.8. It's not a variable aperture, its aperture stays constant. So you have a very, very fast aperture on a zoom lens, and you're not going to have to worry about it getting darker as you zoom out. It's going to stay the exact same size. Your aperture is not going to get smaller. So your pictures are going to be the exact same brightness as they would be. Kind of like a prime, even though it's really not, because it does have that fixed aperture. It has IS. It has the same image stabilization as most of the L lenses. It's one of the older versions, so it's not like the quite newest ones that you see on the telephoto zoom lenses, but it is very good. I think it is up to 3-stop image stabilization. It also has USM autofocus. It doesn't have the red ring autofocus, but it does have a ultrasonic motor, just like the Canon L lenses has. This lens is basically a EFS L lens, even though Canon refuses to make any L lenses for the EFS system. It is basically a L lens for the EFS system. So you're going to be able to shoot from 17 to 55mm, had that constant fast aperture, image stabilization, USM fast focusing, and overall a very, very solid lens. I believe that this setup is going to get you the most out of your equipment. The only downside is the 17 to 55mm f2.8 IS USM is a relatively large lens, so it is going to be a large lens, which might not be too good if you want it to be compact, and if you're traveling it is going to be a tad too big. But once you get used to it, I don't think you're going to have any problems with it. I shoot with big L glass all the time and use usually a camera with a battery grip, like a 5D Mark III with a battery grip, or a Canon 60D with a battery grip, and I really don't have any problems. You just get used to using big bulky gear. The Canon SL1 is extremely light and small, which is going to help you find that balance of very, very good quality lens and not too heavy because the body isn't too heavy. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that like button down below, and of course subscribe to my channel, because then you'll be notified every single time I upload a new video like this, whether it's a lens review or a camera review, to my YouTube channel. If you guys have any questions about the setup that I chose, leave the questions in the comments down below. I am going to be answering as many questions as I can. And that's all I got for you guys in this video.